Punk, amazing pictures from the HSBC, but where's the upbeatness from Ron and Samuel's episode last week?
He doesn't know.
Don't know, Phil?
I don't know what's
I think one of those last pictures is a bit of a giveaway why their music this week's a bit more emotional. Thanks to producer Luke for allowing me to do so. I thought it's fitting for the occasion. It's the last HSBC that you, Luke, Sam and Ron will ever play together. You're off to Cheltenham College.
Yeah.
Breaking news. Leaving soon. Cheltenham College in the UK. And Sam and Luke's off to South Africa soon to go on board and play rugby there. So it's Ron staying behind. I'll hang around and watch Ron play a little bit. Yeah. Continue giving him the love that apparently he has from everybody. So, welcome to another episode of the Box Kick Rugby podcast, where we focus on youth rugby in the UAE. Great to have you with us. Gents, great week of rugby. Feature games. Jess hosting defending champions under 16s and 19s, Dubai College. Two great matches there. We'll report on a little bit. And then following that, Jess also then played away at the HSBC Sevens champions. Desk, you captained Desk in that game, so we'll chat a little bit about that. So let's start with Jess under 16s, DC. Samuel and I had a few words to say before that game, and interesting now after the game to see what happened. Steph, you covered DC in that game. You looked at them. What did you find? Close game, 7-7 half time. In the end, Jess, just the quality pulled through. I think it was 26-7 in the end. Highlights from the DC team?
I thought some key players in that game were Harry Conlon at number 8, who's also got an injury, but still able to play on. Just thought he had a great game having that as well.
At 8, yeah. Fantastic.
And then Lawler Burns at number 6, great jackler.
Again, we highlighted him last week.
Yep, and Callum Andrews at number 10.
Samuel called that actually when we chatted pre-match. You know, after you also played in that match against DC, the first match of the season, and everybody felt when Callum came on, the ball went wide a lot better and they looked dangerous. So credit to the coaches, a good call for the Jess game, and it nearly worked. They were in there half time. Philly, you looked at Jess. Who stood out?
I thought Finn Hunt and Freddy Peters combination was great, and again Adam Bennett just slicing through the line, using his feet well, but ultimately Freddy Peters just
man of the match for
everything,
us.
pinning them in the corners, using his feet at the right time.
Quality, and we caught up with Freddy. We couldn't catch up at the game, but we caught up with him at the HSBC on the next day, and some interesting thoughts from Freddy about his development. Good.
Man of the match from the under-16s Jess versus DC game. We missed him yesterday. He was running away from the camera, but we managed to track him down here at the HSBCs on day 1. What were you doing here today?
I was doing pitch marshalling for under-11s, also a little bit of reffing here every now and then, and also coaching the under-11s Hurricanes A team, which unfortunately lost in the final to Tigers 1. It was a brilliant game. Tigers were well structured, fast players, good hands. It was just a good day, yeah?
And explain a little bit to us how you're finding the refereeing side of things. It's something we've discussing extensively on the podcast. It's hard, isn't it?
Yeah, so first of all, my first match was a little shaky. First time refereeing a proper game of rugby. But everyone was supportive, parents, club members, even opposition. Like I played for Hurricanes. Even the Exiles members were congratulating me on a good refereeing performance. So other than the shaky start, it was all good. I think all the players weren't gobbing at me because obviously it was under 11s, and I could have told them off for it. And it was just all good to start with. Yeah.
And tomorrow you're featuring for the Hurricanes under 16s in this HSBC tournament, which has been incredibly well supported today. I think it's the most people I've ever seen at HBC. Looking forward to that. What's the predictions for tomorrow? You think you guys are good to go?
Yeah, just looking at our team sheet and like our overall performance leading up to it. Obviously, you talked about the Tigers win and the Exiles win. I think that was quite huge for us leading into this tournament. We obviously needed to get those
league matches.
Yeah, we need to get those league matches out and done. So yeah, I think going into this tournament we've got a good the stakes are on our sides, but yeah, anything could happen. It's rugby.
True. Back to yesterday, the reason we're talking is because, I'm curious, Freddie, you've always been talented through all the age groups, but this year it seems like you've found a completely different level that you've been able to go to.
Thank you.
Is it something different you've done in the off season, or is it just that you're getting to that age where things have happened faster for you now? Can you tell us a little bit about what you believe are the things that drove that incredible jump to just an incredible level, and out of position, mostly at club level, playing 15, still playing 10 at school, but you've been brilliant in both.
Thank you.
What would you put it down to?
Obviously, I've got to give credit to the coaches and just my parents supporting me throughout. And obviously, yeah, through the off-season, through summer break, I went back to UK, did some training, working usually on my long-distance endurance, and also did a couple of sessions with Wirral Rugby Club, and also went to sail camp for a week. So I think that boosted.
So the off season was really different for you this year than before.
Yeah,
and it's something that we'll discuss on the podcast in the coming weeks, is around how training, the way you need to train, is different now to perhaps before as you get older as well, with speed in the game becoming far more important. And it's great that it's by design and not by chance.
Definitely.
So yeah, I think that's it for today, Freddie. Man of the match yesterday, the Box Kick Rugby podcast. You're our man of the match. I'm not sure what the coach is feeling at the game was, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow in this lovely tournament, and hopefully it's another successful one for you and the team. But well done, it's fantastic. If you're out there and you want to watch one of the most talented under 16 players who's still under 15 play at school and club level, go look at Freddy Peters, who plays for Jess under 16s at fly off and for the Hurricanes under 16s at fullback, and hopefully one day for Ireland. Or who will it be?
Probably England.
Probably England.
Probably, yeah.
Probably England. That's a shame.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it?
But well done, Fred. Thanks for chatting to us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Cool. Good conversation. Actually enjoyed chatting to Freddie. Then moving on to the 19s, gents. Didn't go as planned, I think, for DC up till half time. It was 7 all at half time. Eventually they ran out 42-12. The quality was just too much. DC came into this game with some injuries. Captain Stefan Eck not available. What did you make of the DC team in this match, Steph? Who stood out for you?
I thought Lucas Pascalis, number 8, was a great addition to the team after not being able to play in that first game against Desk. Unfortunately, followed with the yellow card.
Otherwise, man of the match, if it wasn't for that bit of ill discipline. Yeah. Was it tip tackle, I think?
Yeah, tip tackle.
And then in the back line, Ziggy Harland moves the ball really well. Great addition to that team.
Arguably pass of the season. I think to an under 16 that came up off the bench.
There.
What's his name, Mr. Visser?
Pierre Visser.
Pierre Visser, well done, Pierre. For that first one, he just had to run over Ziggy. As I say, pass of the season, just a phenomenal wide pass, and Pierre finished it. But on the second one, Ziggy repeated that sort of pass, and Pierre had to do a bit of work, but well done. Good to see an under 16 come on and score. Anyone else?
And then once again, Archie Goddard.
At 15, yeah.
Class.
Absolute class. I think what he showed this week was that he can kick as well. I think DC scored 21 points, 3 converted tries, and those 3 conversions were all from the corner. 3 converted tries in the last 10 or 15 minutes. So it was the score does not reflect how close that was actually up until the end. Philly, you looked at the Jess side, a losing side on the day, but a couple of standouts.
I thought the front row, Ollie Savage, Henny Keown and Tane Botros, all use that scrum machine. I think refurbished scrum machine really well.
I think it's a Rhino Super Glide or something like that they call it. And they had a bit of a service or a refurb done on it recently.
Really good.
You could see that was a classy front row performance. They absolutely dominated.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, penalty count went against them, but really strong scrum performance, and great to see an under 19 team that comes in and wants to dominate in the scrum. Anyone else?
Callum Tyrrell, I think he's getting better every single week.
He's getting a bit heavier, Callum.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's good. I mean, he's tall enough, he's got the height, and so dominant force in the lineup, but starting to become a big force in loose play as well. So good to see. I think I agree with that. Man of the match in that game, gents?
Well, I thought Jess side, if we had a losing opponent, man of the match.
Yeah, for me, it's talk about butter or hot knife through butter at will on the day. Adam Bennett at 12 for Jess.
Yeah.
He's my man of the match, even in a losing team. I thought he scored the try of the season.
Double step 3 times, I think.
I think he stepped himself. It's phenomenal performance by an under 16 playing up to 19. We did catch up as a man of the match. We caught up with Adam. Also wasn't able to get hold of him after the game, but we caught up with him at the HSBC's tournament on Sunday when he was playing for the Exiles under 16s team. Clearly talented and someone to watch going forward.
With Adam Bennett, our man of the match for the under-19s feature game of the week, Jess versus DC. Adam playing up from under-16s in a losing team. I think it's a great compliment to get a man of the match, and I have to say it's incredibly well deserved. How did you find the step up from 16s to 19s? Did you feel comfortable, and how did you prepare yourself mentally for that?
Well, we came together as a group and we had lots of training before the match. In the first 2 weeks of school, we didn't have much time together, but in that week leading up to DC, we came together and really trained hard. And all the boys involved just really knew the task at hand and got up to the game speed, and everybody was just up for the match.
And between under 16 and under 19, now that you've experienced both, I mean, you're a standout player at under 16, you were one at under 14, to be honest, as well. And now as an under 16, getting a man on the match at an under 19 Premier Showcase, really, the two of the three best teams in the country. What was the big difference going from 16 to 19 for you?
For me personally, I think physicality was one. Clearly, it was evident that the step up from under 16 to under 19, the boys were going to be bigger, especially in that DC forward pack. They had some very big boys. But also the game speed. DC like to play very quick. They like quick ball. Don't like to wait around too long. And yeah, I just found that you just always had to be alert and you always had to be up for making the tackle.
Then after all of that, Jess had a few days rest, and then they had to travel to Desk to face the team that you captained proudly. What happened in that game, gents? Let's hear from the captain himself. What was the score in there?
37.
30 points to 7 in the end. But I was there, so equal to the DC match. I think they were actually up 7-5 half-time against you guys. Yeah,
Because we missed the conversion.
so they made the conversion 7-5, one try apiece half-time. Similar to DC, you guys ran away with that late in the game. So this Jess team seems to be able to get there, but just not finish. And I think they've got a win waiting. I think it's coming. What did you make of them, Steph? I mean, you guys we saw them scrum against DC incredibly well, and then you guys just lifted the level and taught them a lesson in the scrums. But where did you see them giving you guys a bit of a headache?
I believe we couldn't finish.
Yeah.
It seems like when we tried to execute, we just kept going all the way back, either by a penalty, knock on. So their defense, they seems like they had their defense quite.
They seemed very organised. I don't know what you thought, Phil, but I thought the same. I thought you guys had a lot of ball, especially in the second half. On the stats we looked at, I think you had nearly 60% of the time you spent in their half with ball in hand, and it took so much time to crack that defence. So credit to them. Standout players for you from their point of view?
Adam Bennett again.
Yeah.
And then as well, Josh Fisser.
Yeah, at number 8, I thought he was outstanding until he headbutted the floor, unfortunately, and I don't know, it seemed like he might be concussed, but I totally agree. On Philly, we're not going to ask the captain, but who stood out on the Desk side?
Oh, definitely Aaron Burke and Nicholas Fritz on the outside.
Yeah, Nick Fritz just showed class and what true speed means and can do for a team, right? In that difficult defensive environment where Jess dominated defense for most part of that game, when there was an inch Fritzy could get through and accelerate away. I thought Alessio Caviello did really well, having to shift from 9 to 10. It's not a responsibility he's used to, so it's a lot of pressure. And I spoke to him after, and he said it was a lot of lessons learned. It's going to make him a better 9. Other shout out, I think Ethan Short just dominated the scrum so well, and it's good to see. And it's, you can see why he's also preferred on the men's scene, right? He plays school on the week and then men's on the weekend. So great performance by Desk. We spoke as well after the match to man of the match, Aaron Burke, who I thought was well deserved.
I'm here with Aaron Burke, the man of the match for today, Desk versus Jess.
Okay.
Well done. After a disappointing loss at DC, what did you guys change?
We were like, let's not come and think this is a write-off win. We treated them like a good team, and we were a lot more stricter at training, made sure we ran through everything properly, and we came into a more focused mindset.
You took loads more tips down the middle of the field today. Was that just because they had loose shoulders, or that was something you guys kept on practicing?
Well, it's something that we know and we've practiced at training. However, it's more of an on-the-spot thing. We've seen they were bunching up, so it's just the communication before a carry and be like, let's give us a tip and go through the hole.
Yeah, I thought you guys forward pack was really good today, really up front, but at the same time the skills out the back and just everything, the tackling was amazing.
A lot happy with the way the forwards and backs fronted up today. I like the collisions, like the contact. There was no soft shoulders, especially the scrums to the forwards. Got to give a hats off. I think we turned over about 2-3 scrums. So yeah, happy with the way we played.
Thank you to our man of the match, Aaron Burke.
Thank
Have
you,
a good one, man.
Thank you, guys.
And it's good to see you guys have fought back and got a win. So Jess winless in the under-19s, but I feel that team's got a win in them. And then it's currently a race at the top between DC being unbeaten and Desk trying to chase hard. That covers the feature matches at school this week. There were a few other matches that we didn't, were not feature matches, but we covered them. So I'm quickly going to mention them. We visited James Wellington, Dubai Silicon Oasis, your former school that you went to and got poached from, or did you move on your own? We're not going to talk about that. But former school for Philip Mao. Under 12s play Desk, and we want to highlight Oliver Dunn, Omar El Mesalami, Liam Ammer, Oscar Curry, and Jackson Walker-Smith. These boys stood out. Oliver Dunn in particular looks like something special for me at the under 12s and someone to watch. Let's hope he can stay with James Wellington.
Yep.
Because they've got a good coaching structure there. Ruan Steenkamp, former South Africa under-20 captain, now involved with the coaching there, and former Bulls URC player as well. And we're going to get Ruan on the show in a couple of weeks to talk a little bit about the impact concussion has had on his career, because that was apparently a career-ending, concussion was career-ending for him. So we're going to have interesting discussions with him. But great to see the results starting to come in and players developing. Their under-16s also played Desk under-16s. And again, I want to highlight Owen Skiff, Riyad Hanafi, the imposing figure of Ardek Anurbek.
Big Kazakhstani.
Yeah, one to watch, big boy. And a very talented Samuel Atkins, who just recently joined from New Zealand, one to watch as well within the Gems team. So good luck to Ruan and the rest of the coaching staff. It looks like you guys are building something nice, and we'll continue to watch. Again, if you would like us to attend any of your matches, we're happy to try and do so. Let us know, drop us an email or a comment, and we're happy to look into that. Right, gents, those are the key matches of the week. Next, we want to give a bit of feedback on lessons from the laws that we had last week. I'm very happy to report that, I want to say this correctly, the UAE RRA, the UAE Rugby Referees Association, through their chairman, contacted us and responded to all the questions we raised last week and encouraged us to continue to collaborate and be curious. They'd love to help educate everybody, which in the end makes life easier for the referees. And we need our referees, so let's support them. He made it very clear that people need to please appreciate that referees are not there to punish. They also want to enjoy and love the game, and they're there to try and facilitate a fair and good game of rugby. And they ask that, their language is in terms of laws, not rules. So when we speak about rugby, we speak about rugby laws because it's open to interpretation. So sometimes, on a blind side where the player is going open side, somebody might step offside, but it's got no impact on play, and therefore the referee will not necessarily blow that, but they might at the next stoppage say to the player, I saw you, have a look, be careful. If play does come your way, I'm going to to have to stick to the law. But that's why they like to refer to it as laws rather than rules. So feedback on stuff we raised last week. On the uncontested scrums, and we had uncontested scrums again this week. In the school league as well as at the club league, at the recent HSBCs, we had a team arrive that said we can't scrum.
Yeah.
We don't have props. Now, in the case we raised last week, it's clear under World Rugby laws, scenario one, as I said, there's many scenarios for a ref to try and figure this out. But under that scenario, the team will go down to 14. That's unfortunately that. Now, we do understand that sometimes coaches agree, let's not do that. Let's stick 15 to 15. And the refs kind of like, okay, let me help facilitate that. But if it's a test match at Twickenham, England versus Ireland in the Six Nations, you're going down to 14. Yeah. So then we raised coaches' behaviour. We actually had a nice poll on our Instagram page where we asked players to rate that, and 100% of them came out and said coaches impact, their behaviour impact my performance. And credit to the Jess coaches over the last week when we visited Jess, that they set a great example of what to do during matches, especially when those matches, especially the under-19s, didn't go their way, but their behaviour was outstanding. Good example. Ref said that this is not something they really want to spend time on. They want to rather spend time on officiating the match and making sure that goes as well as possible. And so there is a rugby club consortium, also known as the RCC, that apparently issues code of conduct to clubs and schools, and it's supposed to be a self-governance system. So if you're in a position in a club or school of seniority, please ensure that these things are applied. I'm happy that I saw at the HSBC on the weekend that it was a big focus.
Yeah.
And I believe there's one or two issues that occurred that was dealt with immediately, and that's great to see. Again, we don't want behaviours allowed that then gets copied and pasted. So if it's dealt with there and then immediately, there's no opportunity to copy and paste. So that's encouraging. Thank you to the organisers of the HSBC for making sure that that is a focus. Somebody approaching a ref with video footage clearly against law 9.18 of World Rugby. So we don't even have to discuss this. It's ridiculous. Yes. Please don't do that. If you have the urge, get in your car, go home. When is a touch judge an AR? When is he just a touch judge? We said last week we believe maybe it's when they have official comms, but we've been told that if they are officially appointed to the match, they don't necessarily have to have official comms to be an AR, which means they can support the referee. Now, we raised the point that we would love to see this schoolboy rugby under 19s at least, and the explanation makes sense that all the referees are volunteers, and it's not that easy to get somebody out to a game when they're supposed to be at work.
Always ask.
Let alone two. But Phil, to your point, and I think that's what you reiterate, is it doesn't hurt to ask. We often, you made the point as we prepared for this, that you often see UAE refs at matches, watching the match. So I guess there's no harm asking, hey, there's a match this week at X, Y, and Z location. If you're available and you're going to watch the match, would you like to hold the flag and support your colleague in the middle to have the best day they can? I don't think there's any harm asking, but I do understand that referees here are volunteers, and that is difficult to get to games when people are at work. It was great to see at Jess, though. We had 2 UAE refs that were supporting their colleague in the middle, holding the flags. And I actually saw one of them address some coaching and player behaviour successfully in one of the games. And it was encouraging to see. That's what we expect them to do, to support their colleague. We discussed lineouts being potentially made more competitive before the age of 16 to help. The feedback we've had is that there are some discussions in schools for certain age groups to start lifting earlier, but without a contest. It's a start. It's a progress towards something.
It is now.
It's better than it is now. And apparently the reasons for this was not around safety necessarily, but around whether the boys can actually lift. In my experience, if you go to any under-16 team that start with lineouts in the under-16 year, if you go to the first 2 training sessions, there's hardly anyone that can lift properly and hardly anyone that can actually jump properly. So I don't necessarily think that I wouldn't subscribe to the idea that there's not enough boys at under 13 that can lift and jump. I think what it does do for a coach is it forces you to actually select some players that can in fact do that, or that can progress towards doing that over a couple of weeks. And those boys may not necessarily always be selected if you play under the current law variations. But if they can start lifting, you're going to see maybe that tall, thin boy who doesn't get the shot is going to get the shot. or the boy that's able to lift is not necessarily included in the team because they might not have the core speed someone else might have. So I think it's a good thing. I encourage schools and coaches to continue developing that. This week, questions that came to us, either from things we saw in the game or reported to us. 1.5 meter scrum law for under 19s. Now, I agree with this. This seems odd. A lot of these boys, a lot of your teammates play, or all of your teammates play club rugby over the weekend.
Yeah, so it doesn't really make sense to keep that law in there. Although some teams get pushed back, I think it's a way to learn from it.
Yeah, our question to the referees, which makes it difficult, is who do you penalise? Is the scrum going outside the 1.5 meters because of the dominant scrum or the non-dominant scrum? So if a team decides to select 2 flankers at prop and they don't really care about scrumming, they get the benefit when it goes over 1.5.
Penalty.
Because the coach next to the field's shouting, they're pushing us over 1.5, and then you get a free kick or a penalty eventually. And so it's difficult, I think, for a ref to stand there. Number one, who knows in that moment what 1.5? The prop and the hooker, they can't focus on where's 1.5 meters. So the ref tends to say 1.5 meter, but then you play in the scrum. How do you stop that when you've got 600-700 kilograms behind you with momentum, and the ref says, okay, 1.5, stop? You cannot just immediately stop that. And then what if the opposition decides they don't want you to stop? So they start pulling around. Must be a mess for a ref. I would argue and recommend just take this away for under 19s. They play men's in anyway, a day or two later in the week. So interesting one. We'll hear what the refs have to say about that. Tackler release, something that you've experienced in a match as well, where somebody, for example, picks up at number 8 in the scrum, runs at the number 10, slips, falls to his knees before he reaches number 10. Number 10 immediately goes in for the ball, trying to jackal it. The ref says tackler release, eventually gives a penalty. Difficult one for the player because he feels I'm not the tackler. He or she feels that. So a little bit of clarity there, will be interesting. Goal line drop in, we've seen players take an awful amount of meters as they approach kicking the ball. Should they strike the ball on or behind the line? It makes sense to me that should be the rule
Behind the
or the
line,
law.
definitely.
But let's get clarity. Can they actually have momentum during the kick to actually strike the ball? And if they, on the other side of the line, and if they can, what's the acceptable distance? Defenders holding up an attacker and a scrum is being awarded. The big issue there is what's the time allowed to make that decision? At the HSBCs on the weekend, we saw in the same match quite a long time allowed before it was blown, and then in the same match, in the second half, a very short time allowed.
Yeah, it's very uneven with the calls, and you don't actually, like, if we could just know the time to hold someone up for, when would you blow it?
Or ask the referees, how do you approach that? Is it a case that, look, there are different scenarios and you respond differently to them? That's understandable. But is there within the law a guideline?
Maybe like if the player can't fight back, then they can blow the penalty fast. But if the ref thinks
the scrum, you mean? But
yeah,
it's just we observe a very different. The timing goes from 5 seconds to 30 seconds sometimes, and it's just, where do we land? What's the right one? Then lineouts. Can a defensive lineout lift early and hold the player as long as they wish? In addition, can they even attempt to throw the player? I know your opinion from experience is that the throwing seems to be okay.
Yeah, throwing is allowed from what I know.
Okay. Well, let's hope it's true. Otherwise, you need to look at your line. And then the last one. Again, we're not sure, similar to coaches' behavior, which really shouldn't be taking time from the referee to manage. We've seen issues around player fatigue within the variations of the laws. And I don't know if you know this, but apparently in the UAE, and I don't know if it's just the UAE, it might be wider, but you're not allowed to play 2 matches in 2 days. So, our question to our referees, do they have a mandate to look at this? I hope not, because, gosh, you can't have a referee do everything. Come on. We want them to blow and focus on the game. That's their skill. That's their art. But what do you do as a referee? And that's our question. When you blow HSBC on a Sunday and you meet the captain, shake his hand, and on the Monday you go to a school game and you meet the same captain, what do you do?
You can't tell him not to play.
But do you raise it and say, hang on, I don't know, it puts a referee in such a difficult position, I think, and should they say something? Is there a risk if they don't? That player is concussed and gets further injured on the Monday. Where does the risk go? It's an interesting one. I don't know if this is a global law within rugby or if it's just a UAE variation, but it makes sense to me that you don't play 2 games in 2 days. That part I agree with. It's where do you manage this?
Yeah.
And who manages that? And should it really be another part of what and then they're going to ask the ref, while you blow the game, also paint the school.
Yeah.
What more? We need to protect our referees and support them. All right, that covers that, and we'll give you some feedback on these questions as and when we get feedback from our UAE Referee Association. And thank you again to them and through their chairman for being so collaborative and encouraging us to stay curious about the laws of the game, not the rules. Then our final piece in this episode, part 1, covers something interesting that we did with a referee this week, Steph. Referee Jack Taylor, or known as JT, who officiated the game between Desk and Jess. He agreed to wear a StatSports tracker. You also play with a StatSports tracker, so we thought it'd be interesting. If we did not know it was the referee, how would he compare to a player? So we're going to look at that comparison and see whether we can pick that it's actually a referee and in what data we can pick. So total distance run. What was your total distance run in that?
So I ran 6.7 kilometers.
Our referee ran 6.1 kilometers in the game. And remember, the game time, the ball was in play for 28 minutes. 28 minutes and 28 seconds to be exact. So next time you want to shout at the ref in the 60th minute, quickly go run a 6K in 28 minutes and then come have a conversation. Your mindset might be different, right?
Yeah.
So ref needs to be fit just like a player. He reached a maximum speed of 27.7 kilometers in the game. What did you do?
30.2 kilometers. Obviously going to be a bit higher.
Yeah. You probably practice sprints a bit more than him. His high-speed running, which should always be at least 10% of your total distance. So his target would have been 610 meters. He clocked 724 meters, so well above expectation. What did you clock?
640 meters.
So you bang on the 10%. His high-intensity distance target there is around 20% plus. So for him, that would have been 1.2 kilometers. He did 1.6. What did you do?
1.5.
Similar. So again, at this point, you wouldn't be able to pick that this is a referee. You'd think it's a player. He did 64 sprints.
I did 28.
28, okay. At this stage, still you would think, wow, this player is magic, right? He 812 calories.
I burned 920.
921, not too, he had 54 accelerations and 44 decelerations.
I had 77 accelerations and 80 decelerations.
Okay, so here's a bit of a difference because obviously you're getting up from rucks, making a tackle, getting up, tackling again, hitting another ruck, breaking up from a scrum, changing direction quickly. So that one could probably explain, and that's one where you probably say if this was a play, you compare, you would go, we probably need to look at the video and look at their running lines. His fatigue score, it's called a DSL, it's fatigue on the legs, it measures the foot plant weight, was 217, but it's difficult this because you need about 5 to 10 games roughly to set an average and then compare your average every week. But what was your DSL? Your average normally is around 450 to 500. Where did you clock out on this game?
620.
Okay. So was there an ice bath and a day of rest involved after the game? Yeah, that makes sense. Because we know your average, we would recommend rest. We don't know his average, so that we can't really compare. Then the most important one, and this is one I believe that Rassie Erasmus also uses quite a lot with the Springboks in terms of impact. So an impact is the chip measures every time you get 8 Gs or above impact on your body. Our referee, actually, I thought he would have 0, but he had 16 impacts. So that's probably high-speed direction change on the legs, knees, etc. What did you do there?
308.
Okay, there you go.
Makes sense, yeah.
The last time you wore a chip, I think you clocked in at about 170 odd.
Yeah.
So from a back to a forward, 308. Yeah, I can see why you needed that ice bars in a race. So this is the only area, I think, where we can pick. If
That's
we
a
compare the data and say we don't know who the players are, you would only pick on the impacts. To say this is a player that ran really well and is fit, but didn't really do much in terms of impact. So to JT, thank you so much for allowing us to look at this. For anybody out there, our refs are fit, and the requirements are a lot. Again, go run 6Ks in 28 minutes. It's really not that easy. And looking at all these direction changes, sprints, calories in the end, it's a fit ref. Credit to him, respect.
They gas him too at the end, just like us. So.
They gas just like a player, and then, while you're tired on the ground when he awards a penalty, you start asking, well, what did I do? And he's sometimes maybe out of breath and he can't answer you immediately. And then he's got a coach shouting from the side and parents and it's
A lot. Yeah.
Again, credit to our refs. The ask is a lot more than I think we all realize. All right, Six Nations, gents. We ran an online poll here on Instagram. 57% of our Instagram followers said they believe France will win the Six Nations. 29% said England. Steph, who's going to win the Six Nations?
I believe England will win.
France, definitely.
France, definitely. I'm with you. I'm thinking England, and I think this is make or break for England. I think the England management is going to change on this. If they don't win this one, I think we'll see a change at the top. I think the whole Felix Jones thing, there's lots of arguments around if Felix could survive under Rassie Erasmus management style for 2 World Cups, what went wrong there, and what does that tell us? And so I think I'm hoping for England they can win this. It will take the pressure off the management team and cement them for the World Cup. And so I think this is really important. I think England knows it. I think the management team knows it. So I'm watching. I'm putting money on them. It's a pit. Nobody mentions Ireland. That's interesting. I know they've got a bit of a question mark. Can they really replace Johnny Sexton? Is it sustainable, the replacement they've got? I think the boy is good, and I'm keen to see what he does. Right, that brings us to the end of part 1 of episode 2 this week. Part 2 will air, as I said, most likely sometime during Sunday. Please like, share, and join our YouTube channel so that you can get early warning of an episode coming out. Otherwise, you can find us on Instagram, or you can also email us on theboxkickrugby@gmail.com. We're happy to receive recommendations, comments, suggestions for games we can attend and youth we can highlight. As I said, part 2 will cover HSBC in more detail. If you saw yourself in that intro video, watch out for part 2. You're definitely going to feature. And what a fantastic weekend of rugby, celebrating youth rugby in the UAE. Looking forward to part 2 of this week's episode. Yeah, gents, thank you. Good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for not disturbing our opening video, like Ron and Sam trying to fight for the love. And thank you for joining. We appreciate that, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you, gents. That's a wrap.
Thank you.
Six a.m. sharp, field 1. Be on time.
So here we go again.
Another late night of studying, another early morning for rugby training, you think some days it's too much, right? No way in hell. Rugby won't change you. It will bring out who you really are. I love rugby. How about you?